And there you go.
Ooh, okay. Ta-da.
Did you
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the March 22nd, 2021 regular City Council meeting. This meeting is being held in person and at the Sunnyside Community Center and via the Zoom conferencing application to enable council members, city staff, and residents to participate remotely. All city council members are participating from remote locations, and the meeting will continue as long as there's a quorum. Please allow one person to speak at a time. I will call on every member to make sure you have had an opportunity to ask questions. If you are in person and have not already done so, please complete the form in the lobby so that the city can maintain contact information for 28 days. Properly fitted face masks must be worn the entire meeting. City staff will provide masks if necessary. Attendees will be expected to maintain social distancing requirements before, during, and after the meeting. Please allow one person to speak at a time and allow a moment in case of delay with sound. I will now ask City Clerk Renteria to start the roll call vote, please.
Mayor Guerrero,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Bursma,
Here.
Councilor Farmer. He's here at the community center. Councilor Henry.
Here.
Councilor Risucci,
Here.
Councilor Hicks,
Here.
City Manager Casey,
Here.
City Clerk Renteria, I am here. Finance Director Alba,
Here.
Fire Chief Anderson,
Here.
Police Chief Escalera,
Here.
Public Works Director Fisher.
I'm here.
Thank you.
All right, we do have a quorum. So first on our agenda, we have a 2021 March for Meals Proclamation. Whereas on March 22nd, 1972, President Richard Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 and established a national nutritional program for seniors 60 years and older. And whereas Meals on Wheels America established the March for Meals campaign in March 2002 to recognize the historic month, the importance of the Older Americans Act nutrition programs, both congregate and home delivered and raise awareness about the escalating problem of senior hunger in America. And whereas the 2020 observance of March for Meals celebrates 18 years of providing an opportunity to support Meals on Wheels programs that deliver vital and critical services by donating, volunteering, and raising awareness about senior hunger and isolation. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs, both congregate and on home delivery in Yakima County, have served our communities admirably for more than 50 years. And whereas volunteers for Meals on Wheels programs in Yakima County are the backbone of the program, and they not only deliver nutritious meals to seniors and individuals with disabilities who are at significant risk of hunger and isolation, but also caring, concern, and attention for their welfare. And whereas Meals on Wheels program in Yakima County provides nutritious meals to seniors throughout the Yakima County that help them maintain their health and independence, thereby preventing unnecessary falls, hospitalizations, and our premature institutionalization. And whereas Meals on Wheels program in Yakima County provides a powerful socialization opportunity for millions of seniors to help combat the negative health effects and economic consequences of loneliness and isolation. And whereas Meals on Wheels program in Yakima County deserves recognition for the contributions they have made and will continue to make to local communities, our state, and our nation. Now, therefore, I, Francisco Guerrero, as Mayor of Sunnyside, Washington, do hereby proclaim March 2021 as the 18th annual March for Meals month, and urge every citizen to take this month to honor our Meals on Wheels programs, the seniors they serve, and the volunteers who care for them. Our recognition of and involvement in the National 2021 March for Meals can enrich our entire community and help combat senior hunger and isolation in America. In testimony whereof, I have hereon to set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Sunnyside to be affixed, done at the city of Sunnyside this 9th day of March, the year of our Lord, 2021. Okay. Thank you for indulging the proclamation. Up next, we have scheduled public comments. Mr. City Manager, did you receive any written or emails for our public comment section?
I did not, and I'll check with the city clerk to see if anything came in on the scheduled requests.
We did not receive any scheduled, but I have Mr. Lindy here to speak.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. And if we could just start our timer, and we could let Mr. Lindy take the microphone.
All righty, we're ready.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. LaDawn Lindy of Sunnyside and Yakima County Commissioner. Good evening, City Council of Sunnyside. I thought I might see a couple more of you here tonight, but that's okay. I just wanted to take the time to pass by my hometown City Council and say hello, and also let you know that if you haven't heard the news today, I wanted to give you some happy news for all of Yakima County. The White House has made an announcement that FEMA will be coming in to assist with a mass vaccination site at the Yakima Sun Dome that we have been preparing over the last few weeks, and also providing mobile transportation and a mobile vaccine clinic to come down to the south end of the county as well. This should provide an extra 1,200 doses per day, every day, over the next 6 weeks. That'll start March 31st. So all in all, if you put that all together, it should give us about 50,000 extra doses of COVID vaccine on top of what has already been received. This is going to be a great game changer here for our county. We've made a lot of progress as far as vaccination through the most vulnerable of our residents here. But we had some concerns over the allocations that we'd received from the state. But with the White House's participation, this is going to be a great shot in the arm to us. No pun intended. 70% of the effort will be concentrated on-site vaccinations at the Sun Dome, the parking lot there. The other 30% will be dedicated to the mobile vaccine clinics that can take those vaccines through the lower Yakima Valley and also get to our farm worker population. One of the things that we have been concerned about over the last several weeks is how to vaccinate the farm workers as they come in here and start their labors and help harvest our crops. So this seems like a great solution to that issue, and we appreciate the approach that FEMA is taking in that they are not going to just simply take over our operation, but they're going to work with our local officials, our EMS and health district officials that have been preparing this mass testing site and work to assist as far as staffing and as well as the volumes of vaccine. So good news for Yakima County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, and I appreciate the good news. Obviously, those are always welcome. Thank you for coming in today and then giving us that information. Appreciate it. Is there any additional comments, Ms. City Clerk?
There are none.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next we have our consent agenda, which consists of the approval of payroll vouchers numbers 118890 through 118895 and wire transfers as listed for $387,948.71 for the period ending on March 10th, 2021. Claim vouchers, claim vouchers numbers 100870 through 100920 and wire transfers as listed for $274,042.12 for the period ending on March 10th, 2021. Approved claim vouchers numbers 100921 through 100923 and wire transfers as listed for $810 for the period ending on March 11th, 2021. Approved claim vouchers numbers 100924 through 100974 and wire transfers as listed for $66,375.52 for the period ending on March 17th, 2021. Council members, anyone wish to pull an item or have questions on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing no questions. Ms. City Manager, I do have one question on check number 100935. And that is transaction number 2628. It's the very bottom of page 3, almost in page 4 there. So it talks about, I don't even say, Newton's system support renewal for $5,951. I've never seen that charge before, and I'm kind of curious what that is about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for CDW Government Inc., Nutena's system support. I'll ask the finance director. I'm not familiar with this directly either.
I don't know specifically what it does, but it is a part of our computer network systems. I can get it more information. I'm probably have it in my email. If you'll give me a few minutes, I can give it to you by the end of the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, that's the only question I have. Council, what is your desire on this item?
I would move to approve. This is Councilor Henry.
I'll second that. This is Deputy Mayor Burisma.
Okay, motion by Councilor Henry, second by Deputy Mayor Burisma to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any debate on this item? Okay, hearing no debate, Madam City Clerk, please start the roll call.
Mayor Guerrero,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Burisma,
Yes.
Councilor Restucci,
Yes.
Councilor Henry,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yes.
Councilor Farmer. Yes, okay. Mayor, you have 6 yes votes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Up next, we have our active agenda, which consists of the Yakima County District Court DUI interlocal agreement. Move to authorize the city manager to sign and execute the memorandum of understanding between Yakima District Court and the city of Sunnyside regarding DUI court. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is a program that has been developed by Yakima County District Court to provide essentially a specialized option for individuals facing driving under the influence charges. Those that are willing to, defendants that are willing to enroll in the program can receive assistance in counseling and also hopefully reduce recidivism, reduce repeat offenses. The district court approached the city late last year with this new initiative, talked it through with the police chief and the department, and they felt this was a good option. If someone, though, is sentenced to serve time as a result of a DUI, they would do that here if they're a Sunnyside resident, they would do that here in Sunnyside if they're a Toppenish resident as well. And either the chief or I are happy to answer any questions about it, but it does kind of follow a model of trying to provide more targeted resources to help reduce the recurrence of these kinds of offenses and provide more specific support towards that end.
Okay, we'll
Chief?
start. Mr. Manager, do you have a chief weigh on this, or?
Chief, is there anything you'd want to add, or wait till questions?
No, I'd like to weigh on just a moment, and thank you for that intro on the, I thought it was right on the money. This is also, again, it is willing, they have to be willing to do this. It is not for your one-time offender, it's for your multiple offender. It does target them and hopefully provide them the resources, education, and things to reduce their, basically to keep their status from hitting felony status with the amount of arrests that would be made out there. And but it also, if they fail to comply, they willingly participate. But if they fail to comply with some of the things that they've agreed to do, the judge may remand them to jail. And if they do so, what this agreement does is basically allow that to happen, but it does not cost us anything for any of our contract inmates. So if we were to arrest somebody out of the Sunnyside jurisdiction, then of course, if the judge remands our individual to our jail, then of course we bear the payment for that. However, if Toppenish Police Department does that and they renege on any of their agreements, then they're incarcerated in our jail, then Toppenish is charged for that. We don't encumber that pay, or I guess that payment. So it is a good program. It is new. They are finding it pretty successful for the short time that they've been doing it. So I think it's a good move.
Okay, thank you. Council members, we'll go through the list and see if you have questions or comments. We'll start with Councilor Henry.
No questions or comments on this one. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Bursma.
Yeah, thank you. So, we talked about if they if they don't follow the program, they may end up finding themselves in jail. But what exactly is the program? Is it some sort of a education type program, or what is? I'm not seeing that listed in the summary here in front of me.
Yeah, it is an education program. It does. It's basically DUI court is basically counseling these folks away from alcohol, helping them determine if they do have an alcohol problem, working with the people as best as they possibly can in order to reduce future arrests.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, Councilor Restucci.
No comments or questions, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Farmer. Jackie, are we going to be able to hear Councilor Farmer's comments?
Yes, but he just said no comment.
Okay, thank you.
I can.
Councilor Hicks.
No questions or comments.
Okay, and I don't have any questions. Just one comment. It seems like we are obviously trying to help multi-offense individuals or repeat offenders to help them get out of this cycle of continued DUI. So it sounds like it's a good program. You know, first time I heard about it, but obviously sounds like it's working. Must be some success. Otherwise, it wouldn't be recruiting other cities to be part of it. So sounds like it's going to be helping some citizens out. So I'm glad to hear that.
Mr. Mayor, if I might,
Yes, sir.
just to add on that point, it is my understanding this is a relatively new program for Yakima County District Court, but I have heard of these programs in place in other counties, and that you know they each approach it a little differently. But as the chief mentioned, the common focus is around education and intervention to help folks who have these repeated offenses get the intervention that might help them avoid continuing down that path. And they don't have 100% success rates, but they are successful enough to help reduce these offenses and help a number of individuals, a high number of individuals in these programs. So they have been well regarded in other jurisdictions.
And this is not, Mr. City Manager, this is not going to create additional work for our court system or additional, I don't know, oversight from our part or, increased, court dates for our court system, is it?
It should not. These are offenses that are being heard up at the district court level. And so the agreement is that if they fail to honor or complete the terms of that they voluntarily entered into, the judge up there has the authority to remand them to custody here. Chief, but I don't think it would have any impact on our court administration.
No, it should not. It's all the tracking is done by by district court, and so once the remanding is if that were to be the option, and they're remanded to the Sunnyside jail, then of course they would receive the paperwork for that. The court does here, and then that court is delivered to us, and then we carry out the jail time basically incarcerate the individual.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Any additional questions or comments on this item, council members?
Not on this item, Mr. Mayor, but I have a little bit of information on your Nutanix question.
The next item on our agenda?
No, sir. The question that you posed in regards to Nutanix, N-U-T-A-N-I-Z. That was
go right ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I couldn't find an N-U-T-A-N-I-Z, but I did find one that ends with X, N-U-T-A-N-I-X. And they're a hyper-converged compute storage, virtualization, and networking platform. They allow you to move apps, data between public, private, and edge clouds. So maybe, Mr. City Manager, that helps you understand what the software is for?
Sorry, thank you. Yes, and I think Director Alba was also going to confirm that that is what that is for, and if there, we may have had a transcription typo in entering it in the information.
Yes, that is a transcription typo. It is Nutanix, and it is 24/7 support for our platforms, and our IT department uses it, what it looks like to me, to assist with keeping our, we have virtual terminal or virtual servers, and I think that that's where they're using it most.
Okay, that helps out a little bit. Obviously, I hadn't seen it before, so it must be a new system we're using, or unless I just missed in the past.
No, you've just missed it. It's usually paid through CDW, and we've had it for going back. It looks like since 2015, 14.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for the clarification. I appreciate it. Okay, what is the desire of council on our first agenda item, Yakima County District Court DUI interlocal agreement?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Stucci. I move to authorize the city manager to sign and execute a memorandum of understanding between the Yakima District Court and the city of Sunnyside regarding a DUI court.
I'll second that. This is Councilor Hicks.
Okay, motion by Councilor Restucci, second by Councilor Hicks to authorize the city manager to sign and execute the memorandum of understanding between Yakima County Court and the city of Sunnyside regarding DUI court. Is there any debate on this item? Hearing no debate, the city clerk will now start the roll call vote.
Counselor Henry,
Yes.
Mayor Guerrero,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Boersma,
Yes.
Counselor Restucci,
Yes.
Counselor Farmer. Maybe could you lift the microphone a little bit? Is it up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Hicks,
Yes.
Mayor, you have 6 yes votes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Up next, we have SMC 2.62.120, shared leave ordinance clarification. Move to adopt an ordinance amending Sunnyside Municipal Code Section 2.62.120 related to shared leave to set a per occurrence cap of 160 hours and an employment cap of 320 hours. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is essentially a technical cleanup that we're bringing forward tonight. The HR assistant and I, this came to our attention late last year when we were processing requests for shared leave, and we wanted to refer back to City Municipal Code and make sure we were following the correct procedure. And what we identified was that in subsection D of the provisions related to shared leave, subsection D has 3 subparagraphs. Subparagraph 1 says that employees are limited to receiving up to 6 months of shared leave per occurrence. But then subsection 3 says that the amount of shared leave is limited to 160 hours per year, or no more than 320 hours throughout the duration of the individual's employment. So we weren't quite sure how to reconcile the discrepancy. And at least in that case, though, we did, until we had a chance to review a little further, went ahead and processed that particular leave request consistent with the more narrow language, because that seemed a little more precise in its wording, the 160 hours and 320 hours. If we were to apply paragraph 1, 6 months, that would be over 1,000 hours of shared leave per occurrence, or half a year. HR staff then surveyed other Washington cities. We got a little over a dozen different responses back, and most offered shared leave amounts in a range from about 240 to 480 hours per occurrence. Caps varied fairly widely, some as low as 240, others as high as half a year. So what we brought before you this evening is a proposal to clean this up and kind of match what we saw in most of the other cities, aligning the 2 subsections consistently by amending subparagraph 1 to also say 160 hours per occurrence. We are suggesting that the 240 cap is very much at the low range of what we saw from most other cities, and suggested possibly increasing that to 320. If council wishes, we do have an alternate there suggested, based again on kind of what we were seeing at the low to mid range for other cities. You could go a little higher and increase the respective caps to 240 hours per occurrence or 480 over the course of employment. But the draft ordinance as proposed just keeps the fix simple at 160 and 320. With that, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that information. And we'll start with Councilor Restucci.
No questions or comments, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Boersma.
I have no questions or comments, sir.
Councilor Hicks.
No questions or comments.
Councilor Henry.
It sounds pretty straightforward to me.
Counselor Farmer?
No question.
I do have a question, Mr. City Manager. So when does, this is the first time I've heard of shared leave, so, obviously, having
sure.
worked, not worked in city position before, so I don't know what this is. So I'm making assumptions, but can you explain when someone would use shared leave?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. This is a service or a function, a benefit that I'm familiar with both in state, county, and now city government, pretty widely available. The premise behind it is that sometimes individuals, even longtime employees, may encounter circumstances in which they are faced with a sort of an extraordinary medical absence or need for leave. And it may be a chronic medical condition or something similar. And through those events, they may find that their leave bank is depleted. And without a balance of paid leave on the books, they would potentially go into leave without pay status and may potentially lose other benefits. However, other city staff or other government employees may sometimes have significant or substantial leave balances that they, either through vacation or what have you, that they wish to donate to the employees who are in need. And so this would allow employees, the shared leave program allows employees to donate leave to their colleagues in the case of these extraordinary needs. But it's capped on both the recipient side as well as on the donating employee side. So there's protection so that the donating employee don't themselves drop below a level that would potentially put them at risk of needing shared leave in the future. There's a floor that they can't go below. And I think it's elsewhere in the ordinance, but the council has already set a pretty substantial floor for donations.
Okay, thank you. That definitely helps clarify what it's about. And I heard something similar, but I just never heard it referred to as shared leave. I appreciate the explanation. It does help clarify some assumptions I was making. So I appreciate that information.
Thank
and
you.
I do like the 160 and 320. Sounds like it's a reasonable amount of hours that can be obviously donated to another employee who might be in need. And obviously we have several different employees who can donate small amounts potentially and help them, get through a tough time. So sounds like it's a good program, and I'm glad it's getting cleaned up. Okay, Council, what is your desire on this item?
I'd move to approve. This is Counselor Henry.
This is Counselor Restucci. I second.
Okay, motion by Councilor Henry, second by Councilor Restucci to adopt an ordinance amending Sunnyside Municipal Code Section 2.62.120 related to share leave to set a per occurrence cap at 160 hours and an employment cap at 320 hours. Is there any debate on this item? Hearing no debate, the city clerk will now start the roll call vote.
Counselor Restucci,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Burisma,
Yes.
Mayor Guerrero,
Yes.
Counselor Hicks,
Yes.
Counselor Henry,
Yes.
Counselor Farmer.
Yes.
Mayor, you have 6 yes votes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Up next, we have SMC 5.18 yard sale ordinance update. Discuss the proposed ordinance to set a $10 fee for yard sales and consider placing the proposed ordinance on the April 12th, 2021 council agenda for possible action. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is, again, kind of part of the technical amendments or cleanup effort that we're trying to do as we encounter issues in the code or ambiguities. Here, for many years, the Sunnyside Municipal Code has set various requirements for conducting yard sales within the city. It regulates how often and where yard sales may occur, as well as regulates the placement of signs advertising the yard sales. It also provides enforcement mechanisms for these regulations and sets penalties for their violation. It also requires the person who is conducting the yard sale to obtain a permit from the city. But it does not set a permit fee, and almost every other type of permit that council has established in the past was accompanied by a permit fee to help pay for and recover the cost for processing that fee and for implementing the program that might result from that. So as we were looking at this and realized this particular permit, we had no corresponding mechanism for, we began looking at other areas, seeing if there were other jurisdictions that do. Almost all of the ones surrounding us do charge some form of fee for their yard sale permits. I think one of the highest I heard locally was Mampton, which charges $25 for a yard sale permit. And so we discussed, oh, Jackie's already off searching for that on the web. Cool. And so since this is kind of a new thing, and we're not trying to make it difficult for people to hold yard sales, we're recommending a modest fee of just $10 per event. And our hope is to be able to get this potentially enacted before we're able to resume yard sales and permitting here for 2021. It's on the agenda for discussion tonight. Since it's a new fee, it's my understanding we kind of have a first reading and then place it on the agenda at a subsequent meeting for action. I want to commend Shane and Shane Fisher, Public Works Director, and Mike Shuttleworth, Planning Supervisor. They helped do the background work on this one.
Okay, we'll start with Councilor Henry for comments on this item, and as far as what you feel is appropriate for fee, Councilor Henry.
I'm not a big fan of charging money at all. I do believe we need to keep the permit situation going, because I don't know if any of you had a garage sale. You're looking at maybe $100 over the weekend, unless you have a crazy garage sale, So I feel like the permitting is just enough, and I would like to keep the fee at minimum. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Councilor Farmer.
Okay, try now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, they can hear you.
Okay. I'm not in favor of the fee at this particular point in time. Our yard sale situation is grossly not workable very well. Very few people get permits. I think if we're going to do anything, we need to do something to strengthen our yard sale and enforcement of our yard sale permits and advertising for yard sales. And until we can do that, I think we're just wasting our time trying to charge money.
Deputy Mayor Boersma.
Yeah, I'm tending to agree with my colleagues here. I understand where you're coming from on this idea, but I can't imagine that we are processing so many yard sale permits that it's taking an inordinate amount of time of city staff. And like Mr. Farmer said, we have an awful lot of yard sales that are unpermitted. I think maybe we'd ought to start working with making sure yard sales are properly permitted, and then start talking about a fee.
Councilor Restucci.
No additional comments, Mr. Mayor. I've heard my colleagues. I think this is an administrative fee. I don't necessarily agree with my colleagues here. I think as a government agency, we have a responsibility to make sure that we can provide services to our citizens, and we have a tendency to not charge when we can for a little fee, and then later on down the road we wind up getting ourselves in a lot of trouble because previous councils weren't willing to actually raise the fee of a few bucks. So if $10 is too much for council, then I recommend we come up with something just so that we have something on our books administratively, even if it's a $2 fee. Thank you.
Councilor Hicks.
I kind of agree with Councilor Restucci there. I can see a couple bucks just for the printed form saying that you have in a yard sale, but $10 seems way too high. And I'm more into, all our unpermitted or unlicensed ones we need to crack down on, not people that are just selling little things. I think Granger has $5 for 3 days is their fee.
I feel like obviously there needs to be some sort of a fee attached to all the paperwork that needs to happen. Not only just the actual issuance of the permit, but then later on afterwards, having code enforcement pick up the for sale, the yard sale signs that never get seem to be picked up rolling down the street. Obviously, their time talking to individuals who set them up, without the permit itself. There might be even an option for us to say, you know what, the permit fee is so low that you fail to get it. Now here's the actual fine for not getting the proper permit, just like we do with other things that people do without permission. $10 doesn't seem too unreasonable, but yeah, I mean, obviously so many years without us charging a fee and all of a sudden we're charging something. I think even $5 would be a reasonable amount to charge. But I agree. I mean, I think we have to really talk to our people who are doing the yard sales and let them know that there is a requirement of getting a permit. And even if it's $5 at that point, make sure that they pay for it at that time or stop by City Hall and get it issued right away, or, potentially face a fine or some sort, because we have seen multiple yard sales happen even during COVID that pop up on just Saturday or just Sunday and they're gone the next day. So there's no really keeping track of those. But I agree. I think we should have even a small amount of a fee, but also have code enforcement keep an eye on those yard sales to make sure they are getting permits as required. So it sounds like we're all over the place, Mr. City Manager. So no clear direction here, other than it seems like half of us are in favor of some sort of a fee, and half are without a fee. So I know it's as clear as mud, but any questions for us?
Well, no, thank you, Mayor and members of council. I do appreciate the comments and feedback. Planning Supervisor Shuttleworth is on vacation this week. He's due back next Monday. With council's support, I'd like to take the dialogue back to him, since it would, what I'm hearing in terms of enforcement would require a change in the working conditions for the code enforcement officer, who's not currently scheduled to be working regularly on the weekends. And if we want to do an emphasis around enforcement on those, like you say, pop-up weekend yard sales that we sometimes only see the signs get posted Friday night or Saturday morning, a box appears with a sign on it saying, go here. We will have to look at how we staff that perhaps a little differently. But I'd like to have that dialogue with him, take the feedback back, and then come back possibly for further discussion. And we'll be happy to do that.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Council members, any additional comments on this item?
Mr. Mayor, just one.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Even if this is an issue where someone can't afford the fee, the fact that they worked with the city, we could probably grant them the $5. The idea is that we have something on the books administratively. That was my argument. I don't really care about the fee as much as I care about the fact that we have to have systems in place, because we have a tendency not to do that. Thank you.
Council members, anyone else?
I got one last comment, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Go right ahead, sir.
And that's after hearing everyone's comments, I would almost lean to agree with maybe a $2, just something on the books, but just make it so low that it makes it legit. And I could see that. That did change my mind a little bit, everyone's point of view there. So yeah, let's just, in my opinion, make it so low that would give us a reason to go after them if they didn't have the permit. That was the particular comment that made me change them. So that's where I'm at with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, council?
This is Councilman Hicks. Yeah, I'd say keep it low and then make enforcement kind of stiff. If, they're running without a permit or, violating whatever other rules, make the fines kind of stiff. So it gets people to come down and actually do the correct way.
Anyone else, council? Okay, so it sounds like we got a little more direction from the city manager, so we'll move on to our next agenda item, unless you have something else to add to this one.
I was just looking up for council, the current violation penalty. It is a civil infraction in 518050, and the way it's constructed, it refers us back to the penalty authorized pursuant to chapter 1.16, which would be a potential, let me look for civil infractions. Liable for a civil infraction. It's a potential fine of $250, but that would mean the city would have to take the individual to municipal court.
Yeah, that does seem a little stiff.
It looks like, yeah, the fine for not complying, it's a civil infraction with a penalty of $250 as the default. So just to answer the questions that were asked about the about what currently is or what the consequence is. Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. So we'll look forward
Thank
to talking about this again and seeing what else Mr. Sherwood comes back with.
Alrighty.
Okay, up next we have item D, is FAA grant application for airport master plan update. Move to adopt a resolution to authorize the city manager to submit a grant application to the FAA to update and prepare our airport master plan in the amount of $600,000. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a much bigger ticket item than the one we were just talking about. This is a potentially $600,000 project. But as I believe the movie The Godfather said, we're being made an offer we can't really refuse. In December of last year, the city met with Federal Aviation Administration regarding our capital improvement plan for the airport for the next grant funding cycle from FAA, or sorry, too many A's. The next project on our list was set to be basically a Homeland Security project related to perimeter fencing. It would involve securing the entire current perimeter of the airport, plus some land acquisition to take in land needed on the eastern edge of the runway to meet perimeter requirements. But during that discussion, the FAA decided, or later advised us, that our nearly almost 13-year-old airport layout plan must now be updated and enhanced into an airport master plan before the FAA will allow us to proceed either with the perimeter fencing project or any other use of our FAA entitlements. The estimated cost prepared by FAA for what it would take to do an airport master plan for the Sunnyside Airport is approximately $500,000 to $600,000. The FAA offers a grant program that will fully cover 90% of that cost. However, the city is obligated to cover the remaining 10%, which would be about $50,000 to $60,000. The city does have options for how it would cover that match. The State Department of Transportation offers a grant program of its own that will pay for up to 50% of the FAA match requirement. We've used this particular grant program in the past. This was on the taxiway project. However, because of high demand and competition for that grant cycle, we didn't actually get a full 50% match. We only received a 25% match, but that was still better than having to cover the entire cost ourselves. There are, a number of important investments that are planned for the airport to keep it a viable and contributing part of the economic engine of the city. We have a great deal of potential there. And after 12 plus years, taking a look at the plan for the future probably makes a lot of good sense. It dovetails with the timing for when we're doing our city comprehensive plan update under the Growth Management Act. So being able to bring both of these documents into kind of a current state and reflecting of the technology and the industries that are developing today, it makes a lot of sense. We just didn't have it on the radar before now. Again, no pun intended, but didn't have it on the radar before now to tackle at this particular time. With that, I'll ask Shane, Public Works Director Shane Fisher, if he has anything to add or if he'd like to wait for council questions.
No, I have nothing to add to that, Martin. I'll go ahead and wait for questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Our first council member is Councilor Farmer. Questions or comments on this item?
Some comments. Our airport has, for many years, been a diamond in the rough. I think it's kind of the stepchild, if forgive the comparison there. Although it blows me away that it's a $600,000 project just to find out what we should do and how we should do it. I would be for it. Anything that we can do to bolster the airport and make it a focal point for the city of Sunnyside, I would be for it.
Okay, Councilor Restucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, in a rare occasion, Mr. Farmer and I agree completely. As vice chair of the airport board, I can tell you that this is a conversation the manager and I have had for a couple of times now. The 9/11 commissions through the fence rules and the fencing project that we were supposed to be able to do is an important project. It moves our airport into that next level. Mr. Farmer is correct, and I have said it before. Our airport is a diamond in the rough. The founders of our community, when they purchased that airport, they did a good job by purchasing placing it where they did. It is not encroached on our city like a lot of other airports have around the country, and we need to protect it. The port has done a great job of purchasing land around the airport to make sure that they can add covenants to anyone who does purchase that land, so they understand that we want to improve that airport in the future. So I'm wholeheartedly supportive of this project. You are correct, Mr. Farmer. It is a huge amount of money for what we get, but unfortunately, that's the way it works in the airport world. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Mayor Bursma.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Like my colleagues, I believe $600,000 is an absurd amount to write up a plan. I remember I had to write a 15-year plan, and it was just part of my salary. If I'd have realized that it could be charged for, that might have made my job satisfaction a lot different. I don't know. However, I also believe that our airport is a huge opportunity that we have not yet taken full advantage of. And I think we need to do everything we can to make sure that we have that opportunity there before us, so that when the time comes to develop that further, that we're able to do that. So yeah, I'm in favor of this.
Councilor Hicks.
Yeah, in agreement with my colleague, 600,000 is a huge amount. Even 10% is still pretty high for just a plan, but it's something that needs done to move us forward.
Councilor Henry.
No comments really, other than just I like the plan. I would like to see it move forward. Yes.
Mr. Casey, I do have a question. Obviously, the never-ending "where's the money coming from" question. Obviously, we talked about 90% being FAA grant money, potentially 50% from WSDOT, potentially the other 50%, or maybe even 75%. Where do you anticipate that matching dollars coming from?
Well, we have a number of elements that we're taking a look at right now. In fact, we have at your next workshop a fairly complex set of variables that we're looking at with the budget because of both where we're at financially, which has been stable and remains so. We normally would fund something like this out of the general fund. It's not something that qualifies under any of our restricted funds. We are also mindful of the fact that we hope to have information in the next few weeks related to the new federal stimulus package that was awarded. And some of that we do know can be applied towards lost revenue that was delayed or reduced as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we're actually hopeful of being able to apply to recover some of the revenue we did not get and should have in 2020. So we continue to feel pretty confident that the city's finances would remain stable. So if we need to come up with either 25 or 40,000, 35,000 for this, we feel we would be able to do that within the general fund. And the time frame for that is still a few meetings away. The first step in applying for this grant will take several weeks to get processed and go through that. Assuming the grant is awarded, then we would be able to move forward with some of these other steps. This is a highly technical kind of planning document. It is also fairly time intensive. And so the point in time at which we would need to be coming up with these the match money is still several weeks, if not a few months away. Shane, is there anything further you can share to kind of expand on the potential time frame for when we would need the money and our options for it?
Well, we'll be obligating the money once we submit the application, which is the process we're in now. Once we do that, then if approved, then at that point we would have to obligate funds to the FAA, our 10% or whatever we can work out with WashDOT with the other grant. Generally, this master plan like this, where basically they're starting from scratch for the most part, will take the better part of a year for them to produce. So we do have to obligate once the grant has been issued to us through FAA, which we will come back to council and go through that process. But then once that's done, we're looking at 9 to 12 months before the document will be finished.
That definitely helps to answer that question. It sounds like we might even be able to budget for next year if it gets to that far out of a timetable. So, okay, that puts me a little bit more at ease that we have some time to budget for this a little bit better. So, thank you for clarifying that.
Well, and Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
remember we'll be changing a fiscal year with the state as well, which means that I don't know, Shane, when we'd be available for our round robin WashDOT funds and if those could be used as well.
Yeah, I think those can be used. Are you talking about the 50% grant? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the money that FAA gives to the state every year for airport improvements, and then that money is kind of doled out from the state for projects. And that money can be given to any airport in the state.
Are you talking about the entitlements?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, we get $150,000 a year in entitlements. So at the end of this year, we'll be sitting at about $600,000 in entitlements.
Okay.
I'm just not sure exactly how much of that we can actually use towards this plan.
Gotcha.
I'll have to find out.
Okay.
Yeah, because the entitlements are restricted to typically to projects that are already approved in our capital improvement plan. So whether the entitlements can be used to plan for the plan, we'll have to get confirmation.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, council, what is your desire on this item?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilor Restucci. I move to adopt a resolution to authorize city manager to submit a grant application to the FAA for update and prepare our airport master plan in the amount of $600,000.
And I will second that. This is Deputy Mayor Burisma.
Okay, motion by Councilor Restucci, second by Deputy Mayor Burisma to adopt a resolution to authorize the city manager to submit a grant application to the FAA to update and prepare our airport master plan in the amount of $600,000. Is there any debate on this item? Okay, hearing no debate, the city clerk will now start the roll call vote.
Counselor Farmer,
Yes.
Counselor Broersma,
Yes.
Mayor Guerrero,
Yes.
Counselor Rasucci,
Yes.
Counselor Hicks,
Yes.
Counselor Henry.
Yes.
Mayor, there's 6 yes votes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Up next, we have executive session for 10 minutes. RCW 42.30.110, parentheses 1, parentheses A, parentheses C, to consider the minimum price at which real estate will be offered for sale or lease when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of decreased price. Ms. City Manager, are we expecting action on this item or no?
There is possible action on this, and we have a guest. Our agent, John Hodkinson, has joined the call.
Thank you. So possible action after executive session. Madam City Clerk, will you please place our guest in the virtual waiting room, and we'll.
Okay, we're live.
All right, thank you. Executive session has now ended. The time is 7:50, and the action, we're expecting a council member and any volunteers make a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion if you'd like.
Yes, please, sir.
Okay. I move to authorize the city manager to, see here, to negotiate with our broker real estate property in the amount of 75 cents a square foot.
I will second that motion. This is Deputy Mayor Broersma.
Okay, a motion by Councilor Restucci, second by Deputy Mayor Broersma, to authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations to sell the business park at approximately 75 cents per square foot. Is there any debate on this item? Okay, hearing no debate, the city clerk will now start the roll call vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Broersma,
Yes.
Counselor Henry,
Yes.
Counselor Hicks,
Yes.
Counselor Farmer,
Yes.
Counselor Restucci,
Yes.
Counselor Mayor Guerrero.
Yes,
Mayor, there's 6 yes votes.
motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. City Manager. You have instruction there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and up next in our agenda, we have items from council members, mayor's appointments, and for boards and commissions. We did receive 2 applications for our vacant council District 3, I believe it is, that we have an opening for. And I'm looking for a committee to kind of go through those, interview the candidates, and make a recommendation to the council. Do we have any volunteers on those?
Mr. Mayor, I'll volunteer on the committee.
Mr. Mayor, I would also be willing to serve.
Okay, do we have another council members, or council, do you want me to be part of that?
I think the mayor should serve on the
Okay,
committee.
in that case, I'll be on there as well then. If there's a council member
Mayor,
who wants. What was that?
Mayor, did you see my email about the applicants? Mr. Casey had mentioned that one of the applicants lived outside of the district.
Oh, okay. So does that mean we only have one application that qualifies?
It does appear that we have only one valid application. The address listed on one of the applications is Victory Lane, which is in the northern part of the city. Just I forget which district number, but it's outside District 3.
Okay, so I probably haven't seen that email. So the only applicant that we have in that case is our former mayor. Is that correct, Ms. Hart?
That does appear to be the only valid applicant at this time.
Okay, so in that case, do we even need a committee to interview her? I guess, it would be kind of nice to get her thoughts, but we already worked with her in the past since we don't have any other competing applicants.
It might be, since these just came in, the second one just came in on Friday, we've not yet had a chance to reach out and confirm or contact that second applicant to verify if there's some error in their address. I don't know if council would like to go ahead and entertain that option, but the form does require them to attest that they are, certifying that they live in the district and are eligible, and that the address provided qualifies. And based on the address listed, it does not appear to.
Okay, so at this point, you suggest that we still do the committee and kind of ask those questions, and if it does become ineligible, then at that point we'll just see what we do as far as the only applicant.
That might give us, make sure staff, that we and the committee have time to do the due diligence on that.
Okay. All right, council. So we'll still do the committee on this, and we'll wait for confirmation whether this applicant meets the criteria or not for residents in that area. And if not, then we'll come back with a recommendation to the whole council as far as what we discussed. Okay, so I know there was a couple other openings as far as, I think was one in civil service, if I'm not mistaken, one opening.
At this time, civil service is full. We have a full group there.
I'm sorry, planning commission, we had a vacancy. Somebody submitted a resignation, if I remember correctly.
That is correct. We do have one vacancy on the planning commission, and I believe we announced that at the last meeting.
Yes.
I don't know if we've gotten any applicants yet.
Okay. All right, councilors, if you know anyone who might be interested in the planning commission, I plan on reaching out to one individual that I know in the past has voiced interest. But if you have someone who might be interested in serving the planning commission, please encourage them to apply. And that's all I have as far as boards and commissions. So up next, we have council request status report. Mr. City Manager.
Right. So the only items for which we have any new updates at this time, as council is aware, we're continuing efforts around addressing our vehicle and parking ordinances in the city-owned parking lot. We have been continuing our efforts to try to work with the individuals who'd been residing there to come into compliance. Today, code enforcement was able to reestablish contact with them after a period of time where they were not reachable. We've been advised that one of the vehicles has been sold and will be picked up tomorrow and should be removed soon. So we will be back tomorrow to see if that occurs and if that vehicle is successfully removed. If not, we are prepared to take the next steps outlined in the process, which would be to formally post the vehicles as violating our codes. And we would then wait about 72 hours before considering the next step, which would be to take action to impound the vehicles. At the same time, we're also monitoring the ongoing litigation regarding vehicle impoundments. As council is aware, the state Supreme Court recently heard arguments in the Long versus Seattle case that is seeking to invalidate all city ordinances that impound parked vehicles that are being used for shelter as homesteads by homeless residents. But a decision on that is not expected for another 3 to 6 months. So we'll be keeping council posted on all of these developments. And I think those are the only items I have I'm aware of for updates or new information on any of the council request status reports.
Council members, any additional items you'd like to see on the council request status report?
Mayor Farmer would like to speak when.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I would like to add to the status report a list of all grants that the city is applying for or has applied for.
And we're looking at grants for the past year or the past couple of years?
Current grants that we are applying for at this particular point in time.
So active, okay.
Active, okay. Is that pretty clear, Mr. City Manager?
And to continue on also.
Okay. I think we'll be able to provide that at the upcoming meeting.
Ms. Alba?
We actually already maintain a grant list. Delilah has a copy of it. And it's in an Excel. We keep it current for for our annual report for the Schedule 16, Schedule 15. So we have an ongoing list that we just roll every year through, and it shows the city match and has all the information you would need. The thing that we don't put on there is the grants that haven't been accepted yet, because whether you apply and get accepted are two different, very different animals, because an application can be denied for any reason. So we just only put things that have actually been awarded on it. But we do have that list, and I can get it for you very easily.
But if I might, maybe to clarify, Councilor Farmer, are you asking, I heard you asking for all that we're actively applying for, whether we received them or not. Is that correct? Or are you, or is the list that Director Alba mentioned the information you're looking for?
Pardon?
Wanted to make sure I understood the request. Are you asking for all grants for which we're currently applying, whether we've received them or not? Or is the list that Director Alba mentioned, where we track all the grants for which we're committed, is that the information you're looking for?
For all the grants that we have applied for.
Whether we received them or not? Okay, so if we have an active grant that we're applying for by a city department or program, you want a list of those kept?
He said correct.
All right, thank you.
Council, any additional items for the status request, council request status report? Okay, here now we move on to our next item, which is other reports, announcements, and or questions by council. And we'll go down our list. Deputy Mayor Boersma.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So as many members of council know, I spent 12 or 15 years extremely involved in our Sunnyside Rotary swim team. And as that is a fact, many parents on the swim team still remember that and remember that I am on council. So I'm getting some questions from parents who are hearing that our pool is not opening this summer or something along those lines, and not wanting to make a blanket statement on something that I can't give exact facts on. I thought I would bring that up. Is there a timeline? Are we planning to open our pool this summer? Are we planning on keeping it closed? Are we going to allow a swim team to happen and have swim meets, or is that off the table for the year?
So that is an active discussion. With phase 3 guidance just released here in the last week or so, Director Alba has been evaluating that. It is encouraging. The information that we're getting at this point indicates that in phase 3, we could resume a substantial portion of our normal operations. However, we currently do not have our recreation coordinator position was the one that actually had some of the necessary certifications. We need to get those back in place. We also would need to recruit and hire qualified staff and prepare the pool for summer use. We are looking at the feasibility of doing that. Also mindful of the possibility that the county may be reverted back to phase 2, which significantly limits the number of people that can be at the facility. But we're right at that window where we'll be able to make a decision, hope to be able to have information for you in early April. We're working towards the assumption that we will be able to open in some form this year. We just need to make sure we've got the details worked out.
Thank you.
Councilor Henry, questions or comments on actually reports, announcements, or questions by council?
No questions or comments for me, sir. Thank you.
Councilor Hicks.
Being today we moved into, what is it, phase 3, stage 3. We're going to be starting doing council meetings in person at the Law and Justice Center again, or is it still going to stay down at? the community center and virtual.
So what we've been advised is that the governor's orders related to Open Public Meetings Act and in-person activities essentially still apply. We would still need to maintain the same physical distancing and so forth that made the chambers unworkable per the health district for in-person council meetings. So if council does wish to take part in-person activity, we are set up to offer that at the community center, and can, I believe, currently still host up to 6 council members in person there, which we can fit another table in if we need, if we do fill the vacancy. So that would be our what we've been told is kind of the approach we need to take for even through phase 3. And throughout phase, whether we're in phase 2 or 3, we are required under these orders to still provide remote participation for any council members, staff, or the public who wish it. So it'll be a hybrid environment, both in person and Zoom regardless.
Councilor Farmer?
Yes, I have several. The city of Yakima is charging the health district for use of the parking lot on the fairgrounds. Are we charging the health district for use of our parking lot at the community center?
Yes, we are. We entered into a contract for services with them last year. They're paying approximately $1,600 to $1,800 a month based on the number of days. If, as currently planned, they go through May, which they've told us they're funded for, this contract actually will generate more revenue for the community center than we typically see in a normal year.
Councilor Farmer, any additional questions or announcements?
He would like that information repeated, please.
The city entered into a contractual agreement with the Yakima Health District, and in, I think, November, they are paying us for the use of the community center and the parking lot. The monthly fee is between $1,600 and $1,800, depending on the actual number of days being used each month. So it varies a little bit from month to month.
Okay, the next question I have is several years ago, as a Boy Scout project, the Sunnyside is painted on a water tower, and when we had our water tower redone, the painting, our city name was taken off. Do we have plans to put that back on the water tower?
It's my understanding Public Works Director Fisher researched this a couple of years ago as they got ready to finish the rehabilitation of the Skyview Tower. He researched some of the comparable projects like that done around the area. I wasn't aware that there'd been a Boy Scout project on it, but to have a commercial company come in and do it was fairly costly. And so we sent, at that time, it wasn't within the scope of the project to pay for that out of the rehabilitation funding. So that was tabled and set aside for us to be able to revisit it in the future when funding permits. Director Fisher is, I think we were also going to talk with the Arts Commission, but do you have any more information on kind of how we can rekindle that?
Yeah, we just need to talk it over. I think we've looked at having somebody come and put like the city logo up there, and it was going to be in excess of like 30 grand to have that done. And so that's kind of why we tabled that. And then of course COVID happened, so that kind of set us back a little farther. But yeah, we can definitely talk about it with the Arts Commission, get some ideas, but it is going to be costly. It's not cheap to have a company come in and just the logistics of it are challenging, and the labor is very high. It's pretty intensive. So we can certainly take a look at it.
The next item I have would be the stimulus money Mr. Casey's talked about. It looks to me like we're getting something like $3.6 million. Is that correct, Mr. Casey?
So the Association of Washington Cities had done a preliminary analysis based off if a population, I think, basis is used. So they put out an early list, but they emphasized that that's not been confirmed by the federal government. But that's where that $3.6 million figure came from. And actually, yeah, we did have a little more information to report on that tonight. But also plan to, there's more information kind of rolling out from the federal government and from state and federal officials. We're hoping that by our April 5th workshop, we'll actually have a pretty solid update to be able to provide council on that. But we are getting more information on what the money can be used for and so forth.
Okay, the last thing I have tonight is the in-person council meeting. I am the only one here tonight besides our city clerk. If council doesn't want to meet, that's fine with me, but I don't think we should go to all the work that we have to go through to make it remote. Either we are or we're not. I would much prefer to have it in person, but I can certainly understand other council members' wishes not to do it in person. So if I'm going to be the only one who shows up, besides the city clerk, I think we're wasting our time coming here and doing this.
Okay. Councilor Restucci?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only have one item. I thought I would share the letter that I sent to Senator Maria Cantwell and Representative Marilyn Strickland with council. On 17th of the 17th of last week, the Yakima Valley Conference of Governments General Membership met, and the membership voted unanimously to ask me on behalf of the region to send a letter to Senator Maria Cantwell and Representative Marilyn Strickland in support of regional rail commissions. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and start. Dear Senator Cantwell, Representative Strickland, I write to you on behalf of the Yakima Valley Conference of Governments in support of the congressional recognition of regional rail commissions as proposed in the upcoming Amtrak Reauthorization Act. YVCOG is the federally designated metropolitan planning organization and the state designated regional transportation planning organization for the Yakima Valley region. We are charged by our membership to support and advance transportation opportunities that benefit Central Washington. The potential future benefits resulting from the establishment of a regional rail commission will not only improve interregional transportation planning and communication, but improve our region's ability to collaborate on rail and other multimodal projects and programs throughout the Pacific Northwest. Since 1981, when the South Central region lost passenger rail service, the Kittitas and Yakima Valleys have seen a steady decline in passenger-based transportation services, while we continue to see an increase in freight movement. Our region believes that the BNSF Stampede Pass rail line should be considered as a long-term asset in the overall railroad network that not only could provide renewed passenger rail service for over 300,000 area residents, but provide needed capacity relief to other rail lines within Washington State, Pacific Northwest, and Rocky Mountain regions. Improvements in interstate and interregional rail system coordination, planning, and investment for both freight and passenger rail service is consistent with the region's improvement goals in the Yakima Valley Metropolitan and Regional Transportation Plan, 2020-2045. The RCC proposal aligns well with the RTP and priorities of preservation, safety, economic vitality, freight mobility, transit enhancement, and transportation demand management. YVCOG and its membership wholeheartedly support the establishment of a Northwest Rail Commission and look forward to the possibilities that it could offer our valley, state, and multi-state region. Sincerely, James A. Restucci, Executive Chairman, Yakima Valley Conference of Governments, City Councilman, City of Sunnyside. And this was also CC'd to Representative Dan Newhouse, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And I have one other item, Mr. Mayor, and
Go right ahead, sir.
um, as you all know, I'm the State Transportation Commissioner for Eastern Washington. I'm one of three. And last year, we took action and renamed, one of our roles is to rename roads and bridges. And we renamed State Route 902 the Gold Star Memorial Highway. Just want to let council members know that on Friday, March 19th, Commissioner Kelly Fukai from Spokane, one of my fellow commissioners, along with Mike Gribner, Washington State Transportation Regional Transportation Administrator, and State Representative Marcus Rosselli, at Medical Lake, they set up a small ceremony with a number of family members for Gold Star families, and put up the first sign. So State Route 902 is now called the Gold Star Memorial Highway, and it's the primary route traveled to reach Washington State Veterans Cemetery at Medical Lake and the final resting place of over 6,300 veterans and family members. So this was a wonderful opportunity, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad we finally were able to get to see this come through fruition. So thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I did get a couple of questions from some citizens as far as renting our gazebos or reserving space, Mr. City Manager. Is that something that we're holding off of because of COVID, or is that something they can inquire at City Hall to reserve our South Hill Park gazebo there?
So at this time, as is the case for most years, we typically do not reopen the restrooms and park facilities at South Hill or Central until May. And we're still kind of operating within that framework. However, we are beginning to take some calls for folks who wish to reserve activities in June, July, August. So that we're hoping to keep as close to consistent with years past as we can. We just aren't. We are cautioning that at this point, we can't guarantee. We don't have the ability to sanitize after each use, but folks can call to try to get reservations for summer activities. We're hopeful that those will be closer to back to normal by then.
Thank you. Another couple calls I received was someone who lives on next to the park on Hill Road. I think it's called Hill Road, that goes over the park. But they're seeing quite a few vehicles parked after the sun goes down. I think the ordinance says that they cannot be parked there after dusk.
Okay.
And they were the ones going out to the vehicles and trying to let them know about our obviously park rules. And I think at time he felt like he was being kind of like a little too aggressive and letting citizens know that they can't be parked there after hours. And he asked if he could get maybe have a couple patrol officers every now and then just kind of stroll by to make sure there's no illegal activity or whatever might be going on.
Is this at South Hill or Central Park?
Central Park, the one-way street above the park. That's
okay.
That's exactly where he mentioned that was going on. I know we're doing patrols, but it might just be on something that may need a little bit more emphasis every now and then.
Okay, thank you.
Or bring it up. So that's all I have as far as questions or comments from my part. Up next on our agenda, we have upcoming council meetings. Mr. City Manager.
All right, we have next up on council's agenda, workshop on April 5th. That's a little unusual. We have 5 Mondays this month in March. And so your workshop isn't next week like we usually see after the second meeting of the month, but it's actually 2 weeks out. We are getting several topics ready for that. One will be a presentation from Mike Shuttleworth, Planning Supervisor, on the new iWork permitting software application that the Planning Department is using. We are hoping to go live with the customer interface actually on April 1st, just before that workshop. So we'll have information to share with council on that. And we'll have a discussion around our current budget, year-to-date, first quarter budget amendment. And as I mentioned earlier, hopefully further updates regarding the information that we get about the new federal stimulus package how that's being distributed, how much it will be, and so forth. I'll go into that a little. We do have a little more information, and I'll go into some of that here in just a moment during my report. And then if the clerk could bring up the schedule on the shared screen. I want to make sure, I think for April 12th, we currently have, there we go. We have 2 proclamations scheduled, Sexual Assault Awareness Month and National Infertility Awareness Week. We would then have action on your proposed first quarter budget amendment that we'll be briefing you on April 5th. We had tentatively proposed action on the yard sale ordinance update based on council's discussion tonight. I'll probably work with mayor and deputy mayor, pull that until after I've had a chance to confer further with Mike Shuttleworth and with Director Fisher. We have received a draft lease from the port for the hangar development project. We're currently finalizing some negotiating points that's been reviewed by both sets of attorneys. So we're real close on that and expect to be able to bring that forward to you for consideration on April 12th. And in addition, we're working on, and we'll be presenting kind of for discussion, an item related to Otis Avenue. There's some right-of-way north of the former Seneca plant that we need to resolve some kind of historical actions there to resolve kind of and clarify the right of way there. That street is not intended anymore to punch through, and it essentially has been paved and is become kind of a access point for that facility. And so we're in discussions with them about transferring or selling that strip of former right-of-way to the property owner just south that has the former Seneca plant there. So Director Fisher will be bringing that item forward, possible discussion on the 12th, and then potential action on the 26th. And that's, I think, everything we have currently queued up for the beginning of April.
Okay, Councilman, so you got additional agenda items, please let Mr. Casey or myself know, and we'll see what we can do about getting on our agenda. Up next, we have items from city manager and department heads. Mr. Casey.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'll start as usual with my COVID updates. As of this evening, Yakima County has recorded 28,600 confirmed cases and 385 deaths. 13 residents are currently hospitalized. Nationally, the United States has passed 29.8 million cases and 542,000 deaths. The governor last week extended moratoriums on evictions through June 30th and on utility shutoffs through July 31st. And as has been discussed earlier, today the entire state advanced to phase 3. This mostly affects restaurants and other businesses that can now increase their capacity to 50% occupancy indoors, provided that they maintain physical distancing. However, I've been watching the numbers coming out of the Yakima Health District, and even in today's report, based on the thresholds for staying in phase 3, Yakima County is currently at risk of being sent back to phase 2 on April 12th, which is the next update that they'll be making to the phases, and those will be done county by county. So right now we are at risk of being sent back to phase 2. In order to stay in phase 3, we must further reduce both our new case rates and our new hospitalizations over the next 2 weeks. We don't have a substantial amount we have to reduce them, but we do have to get them down another 10 to 25%. Based on the guidance we're seeing about phase 2 and phase 3, it's now pretty clear that the Cinco de Mayo festival in May will not look like it has in the past if we're going to comply with the guidance. Deputy Mayor Broersma, event organizer Amy Rubio, the city clerk, and I are meeting this Wednesday to discuss the feasibility of holding the event under the current and anticipated restrictions. And I have also invited a representative from the Yakima Health District. Our hope is to be able to provide recommendation towards a decision on how or if we hold it again this year here in the near future. But there are several points of good news, and some were mentioned earlier in the meeting. As County Commissioner Lindy noted earlier tonight, the county was just selected today to participate in a FEMA mass vaccine site at the Sun Dome and mobile vaccine clinics. That'll add about 1,200 doses per day starting March 31st. As of today, agricultural, law enforcement, and grocery store workers are eligible for vaccination. On March 31st, restaurant workers and persons between 60 and 64 years of age will be eligible. And then on April 12th, persons over 50 with 2 or more high-risk conditions will become eligible. We also, as I mentioned, do expect to receive some direct financial aid from the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. They do love their acronyms. We do not yet know how much nor how it will be distributed. Under 2020's CARES Act, the funds came through the State Department of Commerce and were accessible only on a reimbursement basis. For the ARP Act, we've heard that it will be divided into 2 installments, one payout in 2020 and one in 2022, and that we must obligate or spend the funds by the end of 2024. We've also learned that based on the language in the Act, cities will be able to use these funds specifically for responding to the COVID-19 pandemic and covering costs directly incurred from the public health emergency. Or, and this was significant, this was not true in CARES, replacing lost or decreased city revenues that were as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And as an example, as council's aware, we had to sharply curtail the number of beds that we made available for contracts through for our jail. We're confident that the revenue that we would have received from that should be recoverable potentially under this ARP funds. It also allows cities to continue addressing the negative economic impacts on our local businesses and nonprofit organizations. So similarly to what we did under the CARES Act, it may be feasible for the city to distribute grants to businesses that were affected by COVID-19. And lastly, and also new and significant, we're told we'll be able to use this money towards making investments in either water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. So there's a lot to work through in all of this, some real exciting opportunities, but we're hoping to get more details over the next 2 weeks so we can brief you more fully on April 5th. In other updates, I just wanted to provide kind of a status update on where things are at in the legislative session. Council taken positions or taken an interest in a number of legislative proposals earlier during the year. So I have a few updates. House Bill 1523, which related to the renewal of sales and use tax for transportation benefit districts, that did not get out of the House. It did not pass before the deadline for bills to get out of the House. So that is effectively done for this session unless they decide to do something in the budget with it. Also, House Bill 1202, which related to policing and qualified immunity, that did not pass the House before cutoff. And so that appears to be dead for this session as well. House Bills 1054 and 1310, which both related to police tactics and use of force, they both passed the House and are still active in the Senate. They passed the Senate Law and Justice Committee last week on March 18th with further amendments. Among the changes to House Bill 1054, there's quite a few complex provisions in this one, but based on the new amendments, the bill now specifies that a police officer may not use a neck restraint unless the neck restraint is necessary to protect against imminent threat of serious physical injury or death to the officer or another person. It also limits the use of tear gas during a riot to a riot that occurs inside a correctional facility, a jail, or other detention facility. It requires each law enforcement agency to inventory any former or surplus military equipment that it has received and provide that inventory by November 1st to the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, which is then obligated to summarize and report all those in inventories to the legislature by December 31st of 2021. And it adjusts the standard for vehicular pursuits from one of reasonable suspicion to that of requiring an officer to have probable cause to believe a crime has been committed. On this point, the Association of Washington Cities has already come out publicly and said it cannot support that change, and AWC is continuing its efforts to negotiate on the bill. On the other policing bill, House Bill 1310, that's also been amended significantly. The bill now adds to the list of less lethal alternatives that officers should consider. It clarifies that a city may adopt stricter or more restrictive standards for the use of physical force than will be provided in the law. And it authorizes an officer to use physical force to protect against a threat of bodily injury to the person against whom the force is being used. So we're continuing to monitor those bills as they evolve and change during the legislative process, and we'll keep council informed. Obviously, depending on what is enacted, if anything is enacted, if there are any provisions in these bills when they become law that require us to review or adjust our policies and practices, we'll be taking a look at that. Finally, I wanted to mention House Bill 2020. This one was the one we discussed that was related to land use planning, housing, and the siting of emergency shelters. That has since passed the House and was heard last week in the Senate, House, and Local Government Committee. It is set for a possible vote later this week on the 24th. Have not seen if there are any amendments proposed on that one. And that's my update on legislative activity. And
Mr. Casey?
Yes, sir.
Could you possibly talk a little about the training we talked about, that how-to series for council meetings?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
Maybe even just have our city clerk poll council members after your explanation as far as who might be interested, see if it's worthwhile the investment to do the YVCOG training offered in May.
Let me try to pull that up real quick. Thank you for the reminder.
And I'll start a little bit, but basically it's a how-to series on council, city council and commission meetings, which consists of about 3 webinars. One is a new perspective on council meetings. The second one is making motions work for you. The third one is public comments and citizen committees. They seem to be very informative based on the email that I received. It tells you some, I would imagine, some tips and techniques on how to make these meetings work more efficiently. But what was your take on it, Mr. Casey?
The presenter is Ann McFarlane, who is well known as a parliamentary procedure expert. She also, if I remember correctly, I think Councilor Rasucci mentioned she served as the parliamentarian for the Association of Washington Cities.
Actually, sir, she serves currently as the AWC Board of Directors parliamentarian. So she's on staff right now as their parliamentarian for any AWC board actions.
Very good. I've heard very positive things about the training, that it is both comprehensive and interesting and entertaining. It's a very engaging training. YVCOG is encouraging its member organizations to take part, partly because it's being delivered very specifically here in a virtual kind of way over the course of 3 Thursday evenings, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. starting May 13th, 3 Thursdays, May 13th, followed by May 20th, and then closing on May 27th. This is, it would represent a substantial investment for council and for there are some staff that are eligible to attend. For a council with 7 or more members, the fee to register is $1,000, and that enables the 7 council members plus 2 city staff, typically the city manager and city clerk, as well as the city attorney, to attend all 3 trainings. It goes on, like I said, or like Mayor mentioned, it talks about council roles and authorities, the rules of engagement around how to make motions effectively and the different kinds of motions that can be made during a meeting. And then finally, the last session is focusing on the work of the advisory boards and committees that support council's activities and bring the public more engaged into the city's business. So quite thorough, quite extensive, and YVCOG is certainly encouraging folks to take part if there's a commitment for doing so.
If we get maybe our city clerk to poll council and see what kind of interest we have and see if it's worthwhile the investment. It sounds like it's a lot of good information. So I just want to make sure if council is interested, we make that available to all of us, and we can obviously hopefully learn something about it.
Very good. We'll follow up with council on that. Thank you. All right. With that, I'll turning it over for the director reports. Let's start alphabetically this time. Director Alba.
Good evening. Really, Martin did a lot of the legwork on what's going on in my office and in my world this week. Gearing up for discussions about reopening the pool. I am answering all of the recreation department phones. So if someone calls, they don't just get an answering machine, they actually get me, a real person. And I've created an Excel worksheet for all those incoming calls so that I can track and know when they called, what their request is, whether it be to reserve the community center in June or July, or for park rentals. I'm keeping that list. So without an active recreation coordinator and somebody to do the legwork on that, we're trying to defer as much as we can until that person is hired and can start actually taking those phone calls. In the finance department, I'm actively working on our annual report. I've started, of course, the process of going through our bars. Found out that there were a number of changes that needed to be made. So I'll be making those and then moving on to the next steps. I did send city manager the what we call the Schedule 1516 report that has all of the grants that we've applied for. We'll work on compiling a list of all of the grants that have been applied for that's not on there. Otherwise, in the finance department, everything is running fairly smooth. We still have people teleworking. We are still open to the public in the vestibule from 8:30 to 5. We're taking in-person customers from 10 to noon and 1 to 3. That's working fairly good. I know that it's a way for customers that want to pay cash to come and pay cash in person and get the receipt. But otherwise, everything else is going very smoothly.
Thank you very much. Next up would be then Fire Chief Anderson.
All right, I got it there. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Casey. Not a lot going on at the fire department, and things are pretty much under control over there right now as we speak. But I did want to, now that it's official, I'd like to, if possible, I'd like to publicly congratulate Battalion Chief Bill Harris and wish him great success as the next fire chief for the city of Anacortes. He successfully rose competitively to become the strongest candidate from a field of 7 highly qualified fire service leaders. And to me, this speaks volumes of the caliber of our staff and the quality of our professional development programs. And with more than 2 decades of service to the city of Sunnyside, I really want to, I think it speaks volumes and reflects positively on the organization. So I'd like to publicly congratulate him. Thank you.
Thank you. Agreed. Very much agreed. Well deserved by Mr. Harris, and we wish him the best. I'm forgetting my alphabet. Let's see. I think next is Chief Escalera.
Good evening again. I think pretty much everything was said for me. We've hired another lateral officer. He starts April 5th. comes from the tribe, which with 26 years experience and holds quite a few certificates that will benefit our agency. And our 3 recruit officers are doing very well at the academy. 2 of them expected to graduate, provided COVID doesn't throw a wrench in things by mid-April or so. So we are excited about that and get them out here and start training here as soon as possible. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And Public Works Director Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Yeah, I just have one item. We did a pre-registration for an AARP grant last week. They want us to pre-register for those grants from now on, and that's the grant we're looking at for the parking at the ADA ramps at the senior center. So grants are due April 15th, the applications. So we pre-registered last week, and we are working with HLA to refine our application that we had submitted 2 years ago. And just for everybody's just kind of history on this grant, is they're odd numbered years for the grant. So we applied 19, and now we're applying to 21. So once the application is submitted, we should know by end of May if we're successful. And with that, that's all I have.
Great. Well, hope for good news there. And then I'd like to welcome back Clerk Renteria from her, I'm sure it probably felt too brief, vacation, but welcome back. Anything you'd like to update folks on?
No, I'm here at the community center. If there's any council members that want to attend here, you're more than welcome to. We can figure out the audio situation. It's nice if all council members come, but I understand that we can't do, if some council members may not be able to, but if you come, we'll work with it. But I'm back.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's our reports.
Okay, thank you. There being no further business to come before council, and without objection, I adjourn this meeting at 8:41 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the evening or night here.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Night.